Welcome to this experiment in making some videos to help us all get better at Mendix. I welcome any feedback. This is really a first test video, and hopefully my approach will get better as we go. So I am going to, as an experiment here, do something just working with the existing brewery app we used in class. And what I want to go through is how do you add a new item to your data model, a new entity, and build everything there needs to be to do a CRUD interface, by which, of course, I don't mean a CRUD interface. I mean the ability to create, edit, and delete records. So we'll give this a whirl. Please give me some feedback on how I can make this better and whether you think this is useful. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to add to our domain model. So I'm going to go here to domain model. You can have several different hunks of functionality. So that's why we have my first module. It's where we're putting these things in. And I'm just going to add, for right now, something that has nothing to do with our class conversation about what this app was really about. I'm going to add a, let's say, a venues thing to track different pubs and so forth, pubs and bars and all that stuff. So I'm going to go here and add a new entity. I'm going to call it venue. So it could be a bar, it could be, I don't know, a movie theater, it could be alumni stadium. So we create, and we're going to add some attributes. So we will have venue name. We will have address, which would be a street address. So I'll do street address. We will do city, state. We're going with the US now. We gotta think about the whole issue of global, but right now I'm going to do zip code. And let's see, to add one other kind of data, maybe we could do date added to the system, and we'll make that date and time. Okay, so we have this, and the goal here, we could obviously connect this to other things, but the goal here is how could I create a simple set of options to allow me to create and edit venues. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to create a first page for venue, and I'm going to click new. It will be venue list. I'm going to use the Atlas default layout, and I'm going to click on list, and we could choose, I'm going to choose one of these two because they come with the extra buttons we need to add and so forth. I think I'll go with the list blocks. So we'll go create. And so this has now been created. I will type venues. I could delete this, but I'll just do places to buy beer. And the next thing we need to do is we need to associate this with our data. But actually, something else I want to do before I forget is I'm going to go to menu here, and I'm going to add another navigation item, you see, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to change this to venues, and for icon, let's see if we have some sort of map marker. Okay, so we add a map marker, and now we have that, and what the action we want that to take is we want it to open our venue list page. Okay, and good. So we've got that. Let's go back to venue list. So we have this layout here. And something I'll just repeat is this is actually the box we can edit. Everything else is to show you that it would repeat over time. The first thing I'm going to do is get rid of the image by hitting delete. On a Mac, I need to hold down the function key and then delete. Container, which is a way to kind of box things up and control the layout a little more. I'm going to get rid of that. And now what we're going to do is change this to be linked to my database, and we'll put in the various properties. So if I click here on container, what I really need here is list view. Okay, let me just do that again. Here I am, and if you look, and we can talk more about what the nested containers are, and there seem to be a lot of them, and that's a little crazy, and it can be tough to deal with in the desktop modeler. But here, if I scroll all the way up to list view and click, I now see select data source. It will be from the database. The entity is going to be venue. Click select. Okay, good. So we got that done. And now what we can do is we can begin to edit this. So the first thing we would do is we would show the venue name. We don't need the word title. I'll click add attribute. There's venue name. Okay. I suppose what I could do is I could add the street address. So I'm going to get rid of detail text. I will add an attribute. The attribute would be street address. And then this is a nice opportunity for us to see how you can combine attributes. So here for content, I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to add city. And then I'll put a comma, space. So I'm able to mix attributes such as state with spaces and such. So I'm going to add one more attribute. I put spaces there, and I'll do zip code, select. Okay, so that's all been done. Now, at this point, I'm not sure if checks will actually show you an error unless you try to publish it. But we do have, to get rid of that checks, we do have an issue here, which is we haven't yet defined the add and the details button. By the way, an advantage in the desktop modeler, they will show you errors right away. But here we go, details. Oh, there isn't an error because we haven't yet set the these buttons to do anything. Okay, so I'm going to set this button here to open up a page, and the page we want is a new page, and the new page is going to be that's interesting, a detail page. No, that's specific to certain things. We're going to do forms. I'm going to do the form vertical, which I like. To create title of the page. The page will be venue information. Okay, pre-fill the page content. Create. Okay, we could play around with this some, but this seems fine to me. What we need to do now is we need to go back to pages, venue list, and now when we click on add, we see that this has been set under more. It's been set to create object. There are other things you can do, but we're doing create object. We got to select the entity, which is venue, and then we got to select the page that takes care of that, which is the venue information. So the little trick there is in setting up the details, we said, hey, you're going to open up a page, and because it was inside of this container, it's going to open up a page and look for some data, and we created the page, but add also needs to do that. Okay, So at this point, we're in pretty good shape, but one thing that we don't have here is the ability to delete something. And so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do that. I hope. I'm doing this on the fly. This has not been rehearsed, which probably we can question. So what I'm doing is I'm looking. I went from properties to toolbox. I went to widgets. I'm looking for a button, and let's see if we actually have a delete. We have a delete object button. Okay, let's see if we can do that. So I'm going to try and drag that right here. Okay, we've got delete. So I have my delete button, which is good. It actually is giving us. It's interesting. It's actually giving us everything we need here. I don't think it's going to do a warning, which makes me a little bit worried, but let's just see if we can get this to work. What we want to do is we want to have the render mode, button is fine, but the style should be danger, because we want to make it clear that this would be a dangerous thing. You know, you could delete data, and whether this belongs here or not is something we could talk about. But right now, we need to just see how this works. Okay, so I've got everything set up. Let's do the checks. No errors at this point. Let's try and publish. We're going to update the app, and I may have to pause this for a moment if this is going to take a while. So I'll be editing this in a moment, or put in some groovy music. And again, this is a practice video, so I'm just going to let this be a little rough, maybe. Okay, so after what was probably about 5 minutes, I got a message here that the app is running. So let's go ahead and view the app. I'm going to view it in the tablet view. And here we have, didn't change the home page. If I click on location, we get the venues. We can click add. I did not make this a pop-up, I realize, which is why it's showing up in place. So the venue name, Joe's Bar and Grill, 100 Beacon Street, Chestnut Hill, Mass. 02467. Date added. I guess we could make that default to something. I'm just going to put in a date. We're going to save it. And so now we have Joe's Bar and Grill. The layout here is not so good, and we can go back and play around with that. But for right now, I'm going to just live with that. This is a matter of just changing the layout about how these cards should be done. Okay, let's add another venue. This one, I'm just going to mash the keyboard. And we'll leave the date blank. Okay, so now if I click delete, let's see if this actually works. Are you sure I want to delete this? Okay, so it gave me the built-in functionality, so I can cancel this, or I can go in and look at the details, and now I can go ahead and delete. Okay, it's deleted. Interestingly, when I did the delete, it took the flow was such that it took us back to the other page. To fix that, I would either probably need to use the desktop modeler, or maybe tweak this with the microflow. But anyway, and so I hope that was useful. Please do give me your feedback. Thanks.